Okay, today is June 15th. It is just after 4:30 p.m. I'm going to call the Village of Weston Finance and Human Resources Committee meeting to order. Everybody could stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to have roll call, please.
Daniels.
Here.
Ermeling.
Here.
Barr. He's absent by now.
Here.
Olson.
Here. Okay, do we have any public comments from anybody in the audience? Anybody online? Nobody online? Nobody in the audience? Okay. Going on to number 4, approval of the minutes from our previous meeting on May 18th.
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve by Daniels,
I'll second that.
second by Minell. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Looking at number 5 through 9, do you want to take them all together or do you want to take them one by one? Anybody? Okay, why don't we do them all together? We'll go through them individually and then we'll do one potential motion at the end. So May budget status report. Jessica, you have anything for us?
There's a nice summary on there that Song did this time around. As we said before, just keep letting us know which ones are better and which ones are not. So she changed it up a little bit again. So if you have any questions on what was presented, let me know.
Anyone have any questions for Jessica? Okay, number 6, TIF 1 and TIF 2 detail reports for May. Anything for Jessica?
And it's just, most of it's just the wages and stuff. We do have our administration expenditures that are continuing to go through TIF 1 as we wind down. We still got a few expenditures coming in for Weston Avenue. And we did have, it's probably not on there, but we did just have our last pay up for our business park and technology repavement that came in at $323,000. That went to Fund 40, so that's part of our TIF expenditures that we'll be spending down as we wind down that TIF.
When do you think, well, 'cause we're looking at having a CDA, so when do you think you might be getting your final numbers from some of this?
I have no idea.
Okay.
The CDH is to call the debt.
Okay, so
CDA,
we don't have to have everything all buttoned up or whatever. Okay.
it's just an official action telling DTC, so Depository Trust Company, that Village of Weston would like to call its debt, or the Village of Weston CDA like to call its debt.
Okay, I was just kind of wondering when, what all you had to have completed before we could do that. Okay.
Anything else from the TIFs? Okay, and number 7, legal details for the month of May. Any questions? Anything on that?
I'm wondering why we look at this.
But
I'm wondering why we have to look at.
because it was requested that we bring all legal detail to the Finance HR Committee. If you no longer want to see it, let us know.
Because there was members that wanted to know what we were spending on legal fees.
But it's included in the board packet, is it not? No? Under the payments? I mean,
Yes, if
Yes,
you,
but-
it's for those who do not want to go through the individual check register.
Okay.
They want to know how much we spent on legal. Obviously, we are more than welcome to take it out because it is available, but we made it simpler for those who wanted to see how much we pay for legal.
See who's for it.
Is it, I guess, what does it take for you to run the report? Is it pretty easy to just print it or does it, you have to put together? Yeah.
We have a set. This adds to the name, the number in the packet, so. Obviously, this one's a little bit longer, but we have some big reports in there.
Yeah, because there would be some legal stuff in there that people were questioning. And they felt the finance would be the one that would look at it.
But that was when the tower was being.
Well, there was other things. But yeah.
All right.
So what are we thinking? Want to continue to see it? We think we don't need to?
I don't think we need to, but if they want us to look at it, that's fine. I mean, it's reported here so people can see it up front, but there only seems to be one or two things a month. And-
Which is probably a good thing, right?
Right. If it was over $5,000 a month, maybe that's something to look at or something, but.
Well, maybe we could ask this question at the board, whether the board wants the finance committee to continue to look at it.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because I think that's where it came from.
Was it?
I could be wrong, but I think that's pretty much what.
I don't remember.
See Jamie making a note of that. Thank you, Jamie.
In monthly financials, where does the, like the legal fees fall under what expenditure is that?
So it's in the general, fund. Let me check.
General government?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else on legal details? Okay, and number 8, the Public Service Commission Annual Report. I'm assuming Jessica, you may be already, but if not, could you just give us kind of a high-level overview of that for those of us that are seeing this for the first time?
So this is a report that is done jointly with the water utility. It is a required state report. Our water utility is regulated by the state. Like if we want to go for a water rate increase, we need to get it approved by the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin. Once a year, they do have the utility. If you have had a rate increase done previously, you have so many years after that rate increase to just get an automatic blessing to, what is that called? Simplified rate increase. There we go. To have a simplified rate increase, which basically requires a notice to your utility customers, and then you can automatically increase it like CPI. So you can do that like maybe 3 times after your regular rate increase. But other than that, you need to request permission to raise rates for the water utility. This report has been done electronically, I think since, I want to say 2005, 2003. I went back and I was looking at it because I used to do this for a living, and I went to a different municipality I did, and it was 2003 that I could see my name in somebody else's auto PSC report. So it's been online for quite a while. The benefit of this is if you go to the PSC website, you can compare a lot of different municipalities with the same data. So it's really cool for comparisons. You can compare your rates with others. You can sort it by size of the municipalities or size of the utility. You have anything else to add? I'm rambling.
I guess it was in the May board packet as an acknowledgement item. I had just some high level things in there as far as what are, we have 1,029 fire hydrants. We have 6,091 customers, of which 5,255 are in Weston. 836 are outside our boundaries, with 831 and being in Rothschild. Our noted rate of return was a little over 2% for this year. As far as net operating income, which was 482,000. I guess there's a lot of numbers in there. There's a lot of data as far as what the utility all operates, and the services and the infrastructure we have in the ground. I think another interesting item of note is our payment in lieu of taxes that the water utility pays to the village of Weston. That's a little over $480,000. So, there's just a lot of different things that go into it, and what goes into the maintenance and operations of the water utility. Our water main ages are in there, showing how many miles of water main based on whether it's ductile iron main, which is the newest kind of material we use, or PVC. At Public Works Utility, we talk a lot about the asbestos cement water main we still have in the system, which there's roughly 10 miles left of that throughout the distribution system.
Excuse me, is there any plans on getting rid of that, or what's the?
Yeah, we're working on about a mile a year. Hopefully in about 10 years, we're done.
Is there any compensation or federal programs that we? Nothing?
No. Right now, really the only federal programs for Water utilities are for lead service line removal, which we don't have any lead service lines in the village. And then also PFAS, which you are getting safe drinking water loan principal forgiveness and for our PFAS treatment projects.
This is a pretty specialized report. Like there's a lot of stuff that if you were to come in outside, like from private sector, you wouldn't probably get a lot of this stuff. It is pretty comparable. If you look at the PSC report, the financial information, it's pretty comparable to our financial statements. There's a few differences because the GAAP accounting that we do is a little bit different from the PSC required accounting. But we usually do reconcile those two. And a couple of highlights here. Return on the investment in meters charged to sewer department level. I don't know if a lot of people realize, but those meters out there, which are a water asset, are also used for our sewer utility. So at the end of the year, the depreciation, the return on investment, and the taxes paid on those meters is shared between the water and sewer. So that's an allocation we do every year. It's basically kind of structured and guided by the PSC to make sure that you're making sure all customers are fairly charged. We do have some customers that are sewer only. We have some water only, right? So making sure that the water utility and sewer utility are both charged fairly. Sewer is not regulated in the state of Wisconsin. We used to have some regulated sewers, but those have become unregulated these days. I think that's it. If you have any questions on the report, let us know. But like Michael said, there's a lot of numbers.
Anything else for Jessica on number 8? Okay, moving on to number 9, the state municipal financial report. I'm assuming that's you as well, Jessica.
This is a report required by the Department of Revenue. Wisconsin Department of Revenue. It's you can call it the state report, Form Cs. It has lots of different names to it. A lot of the times a municipality will hire their auditors to do this. We do this in-house. One of the main important things about this report is it is the report that's used to determine your transportation expenses for your general transportation aid. So when you know that, one of the highlights I like to point out is when we were building this building, we went to make sure that the street portion and the general administration portion of this building were separated. We did that first of all by borrowing separate. For our public works garage, we were able to borrow a 20-year bond right off the bat. The state of Wisconsin doesn't allow you to borrow 20 years for your general administration buildings. We had to borrow a 10-year and refinance that into a 20-year. So when we borrowed, we made sure we borrowed for public works, and all the principal and interest payments for that are recorded on that tied to the street department, so that actually formulates into our general transportation aid. That right there is pretty special, the staff and the guidance, because if someone didn't know that and really didn't care, that would have been a lot of missed opportunity there that the village wouldn't have gotten had it not been treated properly. So this report shows that. That's the benefit of us doing this report. This report combines all funds. It takes probably a day to do. Each account in our general ledger is exported, and then we group them all together. So when you're talking about exempt computer aid, we record that aid in TIF 1, TIF 2 in the general fund. This report, you're going to see it all in one line. When you're looking at the taxes taken in by the village, they're all in one line. The increments all in one line. So that's the benefit of this report. You get a really good idea of everything the village has. So revenue generated, taken in, and the expenditure spent. And it's not separated by fund, it's all in there together.
Questions for Jessica?
No, other than she does a very good job.
She's up for number 10 too, so, okay, looking at numbers 5 through 9, looking for a motion.
Move for acknowledgement.
Move for acknowledgement by Minell. A second?
Second.
Second by Daniels. Any discussion?
Only, item 7 probably doesn't need an acknowledgement, because there was nothing. But that's.
Any other? Okay, that's it. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, educational presentations in the report. And I'm guessing, Jessica, this is you too, for the finance department.
So this month, we're gonna be talking about the Finance and Human Resources Committee, this department. How about Finance Department? And we got 3 people that work from the finance primarily. It's myself. My history is I graduated from UW Eau Claire with a bachelor's of business administration. I worked for Greenheck for a year. Moved on to a CPA firm. I worked there for 6 busy seasons. And then in 2007, I came to the village of Weston as their first deputy finance director. There I was here till 2015, and I left to go to the town of Mountain at the time, and I was their as their finance director there. I came back after my old boss left, and I've been here since 2017. There we go.
So, I'm Song, the Deputy Finance Director. I graduated in 2018 at Upper Iowa in accounting. I had a little over 8 years in accounting, 3 years as a teller at Covantage, 3 years in accounts receivable, roughly 2 years in payroll. I was at Schofield before I came here, and that was 1 year, and I've been here for 4 years.
And my name is Renee, and I do the accounts payable, payroll, and the HR. I graduated from UW Stout, and I will age myself in 1989. So my husband was a probation officer at St. Louis County in Duluth, so we were engaged. So then I moved up there, and I worked at Menards at their #1 store as their store controller. Then I got promoted to the general office in Eau Claire, so we moved there. And then my husband had opportunity to buy a business here, so we moved here. So we both grew up here, and then I worked for East Bay as a buyer for 12 years. And then Foot Locker bought him out, and then a lot of things changed. So then I ended up coming here, and I've been here for over 20 years. And so a lot of my stuff just kind of all coordinates, which Jess will kind of go over when she gets to that.
What we do, the finance department has both internal and external customers, meaning we serve both the citizens of the village and our coworkers. The department is responsible for oversight and financial management of the village. It includes payroll, benefit management, accounts receivable and payable, cash management, disbursements, debt issuance and management, capital asset record maintenance, reporting, both payroll and financial, budget, and property taxes. Welcome to the finance department where everybody counts. Here's this is our main finance administration budget. I just wanted to point out in this budget is 58% of Song's wages and benefits, 43% of Renee's wages and benefits, and then 47% of my wages and benefits. We're all spread out between other funds. We all work for the utility. We cut checks, Renee payroll, and we maintain asset record for their assets. So when we're looking at the time that we spent throughout the year, we decided that there's a certain amount of our time that is directly utility rate related, and those wages got split there. A lot of our wages also got split to the TIF district, which will be coming back next year, but currently in the 2026 budget, they were budgeted in TIF also. As you can see from the finance administration, we really don't have much of a budget. We do have conference and registration fees and lodging. Those are our main activities that we do when we're not here at work, is trying to keep up to date, because both accounting rules and payroll and all that are changing on a yearly basis. So that budget allows us to go learn those changes. Payroll's run bi-monthly. Payroll can include between 38 and 64 employees. That high number is when we have an election in the summer, and the 38 is in the dead of winter when we don't have any part-time employees anymore. The average is $111,041 per pay period. Can you click on that?
You run payroll by monthly or bi-weekly?
Bi-weekly.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, she can't click on it. You want me to go there? Can go.
oh, no, bi-monthly.
So you get paid every other month?
Twice a month. There we go.
Bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly,
Okay, I was
yes.
like, wow, you guys don't get paid.
That's okay. Okay. Payroll reporting. My whole thing here is I wanted to show you that when we do payroll, it's not just like a 2-hour activity that Renee pushes a button and we're done with. Our payroll starts with the employees. Each employee, all the hourly employees, enter their own time. And I don't know if you've seen our monthly budget status report, but we have a lot of accounts. Like in the street department, they have like 5 or 6 different accounts. And what we do is we're accountable for our time and what we do during the day. And what happens is it requires our employees to actually keep detailed records of what they're doing during the day. And they enter that. So at the end of the month, we're able to get you this report. So this is where we've spent our money, what activities we spent it on. Water and sewer, so the guys that work in the utilities, they probably get, I'd say 6 to 7 a day. If you look at their time cards, when they do the budget, they got about, I'd say 15 different time codes that they have the ability to use during the year that they will use, depending upon whether they're fixing a main or services or meters, or if they're in the sewer department. Manhole repair, that's its own task. So we rely on the staff to submit our numbers to us. When the staff is done entering their hours, it is all reviewed by management. So Michael reviews waters, the utility, the street department, and then I review my department, Pam reviews hers. We all review to make sure that the numbers we're using are accurate, that we don't have corrections. We don't, especially when it comes to the federal government, you don't want to be messing up anyone's pay or withholding.
Is that something, Jessica, that is pretty common for municipalities? They divide it between all those lines, or is that just something the village does?
It depends upon your size. Or
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, some of it for the PSC report, the water utility is very specific, but also, it's in the village board report I mentioned at Public Works. Forrest Blarick, our street superintendent, when he went through his report, he had, pictures of, the detail of the work that crew did in May. It was street sweeping, it was manhole and valve repairs, it was crack sealing, it was brush and leaf pickup, and I'm missing something else, but it was 5 different entities essentially, like whether they were different enterprise funds, stormwater, water utility, sewer utility, the general fund, our refuse recycling fund. So I mean, all of our revenue sources are different, so the guys can't just be like, oh, I worked 8 hours today, because that's not realistic. And same thing, like our park staff, a lot of them do snow plowing in winter. Our utility, water, sewer, they'll do snow plowing in winter, so they, we'll record that. A lot of bigger organizations, they get to a point where if you're on the street crew, you're on the street crew, you're on the water crew, you're on the water crew, and there is no cross utilization of staff, whereas we're very, very fluid with our hourly staff.
Do their wages differ when they're on different jobs?
No,
So it's a straight set.
yeah, we used to have differing wages. That was more of a headache, but
that was very difficult.
And what size do the communities change them to? Dedicated?
A lot of it's older. I mean, there are some communities our size that do have dedicated staff. But they also, I think, get more revenue from state aid and other things, so
Able to hire more people.
there's less incentive for them to be as creative and flexible with their staffing levels.
How does Rothschild and Schofield do it?
Rothschild be similar, but Rothschild has some dedicated water employees that only do water. Schofield, I think, does a little more. I mean, they have 4 guys on their staff. They're 16 miles. They're, you know, Corona Water, I believe, is separate water and sewer from their street operations.
The benefit, as I was saying before, when you do record the transportation, like when our utility guys are snow plowing, that's going towards our transportation aid. That's expenditures for transportation. So we need to make sure that they account for that when they're snow plowing and not maintaining a well. So it's important that they do that.
So does payroll take you like a lot of time to do? To like check all that? Seems like a lot of extra time to.
The staff's pretty good. I mean, we have scheduling sheets that they fill out daily that says what they did, so it's a pretty quick check. I mean, I guess I don't, harp down to like, well, you said it was 2.5 hours. Are you sure it wasn't, 2 3/4 hours? Like, don't worry about that level of detail, but in general, and then we also bill the town of Weston for any work we do in the town, so it's making sure that we even pull that part out. Like if we're rural ditch mowing, you might start in the village of Weston and all of a sudden you go into town of Weston for 2 hours and then all of a sudden, nope, you're back in the village of Weston. So, even, snow plowing is the same thing. The guys are plowing the road. They're not, necessarily worrying about every second that they're in the village versus the town. They're just, plowing Ross Avenue and it goes from village to town and back. So, but being able to pull that data back helps us to get reimbursed from the town as well as, making sure our funds are allocated correctly.
Slightly off task, but generally, do you see our employees enjoy this specialization of being able to do different things? Or are they more, like they hate some things and like some other things? I mean, I'm sure there's probably things that they prefer more than others, but.
I think for the most part, they enjoy the variety of work. It doesn't get as monotonous as other places where if you're at a larger community, you might be on the pothole patching crew and you're on the pothole patching crew for, April through September, and that's all you do all summer long. Whereas, here even, for patching, we'll rotate guys through, but, like in Wausau, they have a separate utility crew that will take care of their water main breaks. Our street guys generally are digging for our water operators while we're taking care of that. And if we need to do some hydro excavating, our utility operators will use the sewer truck to hydro excavate for the street staff. And so there's a lot of working together. You kind of have your core group that your core function that you're hired to do. And that's probably 75% of your task. And then the other 25 is helping out as needed.
Okay. So generally they seem to.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happened, it occurred last year in the middle of the year, is with the Fair State Labor Standards Law, if you have PTO or a holiday and you work overtime, I had like set up all kinds of codes to make sure that if you don't get that, that extra time and a half, like no tax on that, time and a half. So I had to set those codes up and then they have to look at that. So if they, like Christmas, people came in on Christmas, but that doesn't count towards your overtime because holidays and PTO. So that has to all be set up separately too. And has to be monitored to make sure their hours are going in the correct line.
Okay, payroll reporting, these are all the reports that Renee does from the 941s all to the deferred comp of our benefit package. Anything special to say about those?
Just one of the things that where the AP and payroll and onboarding all like tie in. So when someone new starts, I go through all their paperwork, they fill out all their state, federal taxes, their life insurance. Do they want 1 unit? Do they want 5 units? the village pays for their first unit. You know, how old they are, it depends on how much, you know, the employer is gonna get charged, the employee is gonna get charged, and how that gets on their paycheck. Same thing like with health insurance, everything's prorated. So we have to make sure that whatever comes out of their paychecks is what we're getting billed for. So all that ties out. Life insurance, we get billed for it a month in advance. So, you know, like right now in the June, we're paying for July, you know, so, you know, so someone's starting, you know, there's just a lot of coordination. We have to make sure that everything ties out with our, accounts payable, with what we're onboarding and what's coming out of everyone's paychecks.
Okay. Accounts payable in 2025, 2,420 checks were issued and 47 ACH payments were made. Total ACH and check disbursements valued 50,296,621. So that number is extremely big, but it also includes our tax disbursements. So when we did the apportionment and paid the county, the school district, and the technical college, their portion of taxes, that's included in there. But we also had a ton of capital projects last year that we paid by check. So the village doesn't do a lot of ACH. A little hesitant to really step into that realm, but I think eventually we need to get there. And then next page. Our accounts payable is all done online, so Renee will get a lot of the mail and she'll get a lot of invoices emailed, and they all get put into our system. It's called My Viewpoint. It's connected to our Cassell, so our financial software. And in this, everything is entered from the vendor to the address, invoice number, and then what department is in charge of that invoice. And then down below, you can see where it gets coded. We get a description. This example here is a credit. We handle credits the same way as invoices. They go through our system. If you go to the next page. This shows the approval process. You can see who entered the invoice system, and then who coded the invoice, the department that approved it, finance approval, and then when it was imported into our Cassell program where the checks are issued from. So this is a really great example of how when money goes out of the Village of Weston's account, it's not just one approval. It goes through a whole process to make sure the funds are coded and properly and approved.
And make sure we're getting charged the right amount, that there's no, making sure the remit to address is correct.
Yeah,
Have you had much fraud attempt?
not really. We have not had the MPD a year or two ago had a check cashed and it wasn't the right vendor. But we have not had that problem. I don't think we haven't had an issue, obviously, with the bank. If something gets cashed for the wrong dollar amount, I've been able to contact the bank right away, and they've been able to correct it for us. But we have not had a false vendor sending a false invoice asking for money.
Knock on wood.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I think for the most part, we deal with more, I don't know, bigger name or reputable dealers. We're not generally, you know, taking a vehicle to Joe's towing or something, you know, to get a wheel put on. Like we'll work with the same vendors that we historically are. And I mean, if we do get something that looks a little odd, we generally follow up with it. We don't just say, hey, Renee, put this in my queue and let's pay it. So
It's a benefit. So Brian, street maintenance, he actually codes all his invoices. He is usually the most, between utility, Josh and Brian, they have a lot of invoices that they code. That's why it goes back to them, because they know what was purchased, what they're using, what they fixed. And they also, another thing that you would see if, say something from Napa, we have a ability to take that fix to a piece of equipment. So we're able to run a report and show how much money was spent on that piece of equipment. So in the future, when we want to replace that equipment and somebody says, well, it's not that old, or we want to replace it a year after we bought it, we can run the report and say, we've spent this much money on this piece of equipment. It's costing us so much, we need to replace it. So that's one of the other benefits of the system, that we can do something like that. And the detailed descriptions that we use. You look through the check register, you know what we're buying. We're very forward with what is being bought. So I think that's really a benefit that we do, trying to be really accountable, so you know what the money is spent on. So if you're curious, you can open that invoice, that check register that we submit every month to the board, and you know what we bought.
And then every once in a while on the check registers, there's some voided checks, so someone may call and say, we never received the check. We always check with our bank first, see if it cleared. If it hasn't, then we do a stop payment, and then we void the check, and then we reissue it.
This one. So this is WPS. This is an example of WPS. We do WPS with one ACH when Song does all this. So you can see that we get a lot of invoices from WPS. This is just one of 3 pages that are full of account numbers and descriptions. Song gets all the invoices every month. Do you know how many you get?
Oh, gosh. No.
I'm guessing close to 20, if not more, that she verifies and enters the dollar amounts into this system. And the payments are automatically scheduled to go out, but our job here is to make sure that by entering it in, the amounts are reasonable. Like if we're paying $20,000 and it only had a $400 invoice last month, we need to make sure what's going on. But that's just a good example of, you just don't pay a WPS bill. Paying WPS is a process, and making sure all the information is accurate. We have the invoices that go to water, sewer, storm, and the village. So that's why it's so important that we make sure everything is labeled correctly. And we have the dates on there, so we make sure that no more than 12 bills are coded to a year. Next one. Oh yeah, I just gave you. So that one bill is $18,000. That's just a month's worth. That's mostly our street lighting and traffic lights. You can see that if you go back. Yeah. Yeah, that's one. That one. So that bill is $18,000 a month, and that's just for traffic lights, street lights, sirens. So that's part of the job when people do say, oh, we need more street lighting. That's why it goes through committee. Streetlights are expensive, and it's not a benefit that everyone sees. Obviously, you see it, but they don't realize the cost and the cost of having that. So,
No pun intended.
no pun intended. Accounts receivable. Do you want to talk about accounts receivable? Okay. Last year, 178 invoices were issued. Song's not the only one that issues invoices, but she's the main person that makes sure that the accounts receivable module that we use in our accounting system is kept up and accounted for. She does a lot of them, like when we had that joint project with the Village of Rothschild last year, Michael would send stuff that we need to bill. Song would verify with Michael and get everything prepared and then send it out, and then she would make sure that those funds were collected. Last year, the total value was $1.2 million billed. We'll also bill any garbage if a house was built during the year and they didn't have a tax bill that we could put a garbage charge on. We make sure that we send them an invoice, make sure we collect for their garbage service for the year. Next. Financial management. In the financial management area, we do the cash management. So at the tax collection time, we use all our local banks as a source to collect our taxes. And with that, we also keep money in them. Cash management, if we have CDs too, we make sure that we look and make sure we get a good interest rate to reinvest. Debt payments and debt management, that's a big thing. So when I first got here, they were looking at hiring out the debt payment. Debt payments are wired out. They have to be wired so many days in advance, and they go to the DTC, which is Depository Trust Company, and they allocate to the proper bondholders. When I first got here, that was a service that they were looking to get paid for. I came in, I said, I can pay the debt, but I want somebody to be investing money for me because that's definitely not my strong point. We went for an RFQ, RFP, and the finance committee decided not to hire anyone for financial management. But we do our best here to try to earn them a large amount of interest with the funds that we have. So not our strongest point, but we make sure that we try our best. The last one is the reporting. If you go to the next page. As we talked about before, the PSC report, the state report, financial statements, which I think we brought forward a couple of months ago, room tax report, TIF reports, 1090 reports. There's probably reports that we didn't even put on here that we do. The state does have quite a few reports, like the cable franchise report. We report to the state how much the charter and TDS gave us, and then they give us our state aid based on those reports. There's a lot of reports that we do that if we don't do or do them incorrectly, we'll be getting the wrong revenue from the state. So records are important to be kept. Make sure you can interpret the records that you keep and fill out these reports correctly determines the revenue is accurate. So here's a good one. What do you see? It's kind of a fun one. Everybody sees different things, right? So that's the point here is how many legs does this elephant have? Moving on, so this was just to get you thinking, right? Everybody sees differently. So here's a report. It's the South Area Fair Emergency District from 2015. What do you see? When the auditor presented this to the committee, I was at the Tower Mountain at the time, but I was sitting in at that meeting and my jaw dropped. He's like, oh, the cash and investments. The Savers got so much more cash than last year. As you can see, there's $160,000 in cash. But if you go down, there's an intergovernmental payable down there of $574,000. If you were to dig into that, you would see that the Safer District has not accumulated enough cash to pay their bills in the last 2 years. They were in debt to the village of $574,000. When that was finally brought up, there was a lot of, well, why didn't you tell us? How could they hide it? And my answer to everybody is it's right in front of you. I saw it. It's 574, what's intergovernmental payable. So my reason for talking about this is we give a lot of information out. We give a lot of reports. I read those reports. I develop those reports. And I know what the reports say, but I don't always tell you the information you need because I'm not sure what questions you have, or I assume maybe you saw that, maybe you had that, you already knew. But if you don't know and you don't ask the questions, I'm not gonna know what you don't know. Obviously, a situation like that, it should have been disclosed, it should have been talked about, the auditor should have talked about it, but that ended up being a really messy situation for the Safer District, but I think it really goes to show the information is there. We're not hiding anything, but sometimes that if you don't have the experience and knowledge, you can't always read the reports right. But that's where my stress is ask questions. Ask as many questions as you can to learn to understand what you're seeing and what we're reporting. Because if you don't understand it, I mean, a lot of times we'll try our best to explain what we are trying to show you. But if you still don't get it, keep asking, because we'll just keep trying a different way and trying to explain the information for you. That was the whole point in the last two slides. Finance budget, the village is one of the few municipalities that still completes their own financial statements. The audit fee is shared with TIFs and utilities. So as you can see here, the budget for 2026 was only 13,200. I think we're closer to $26,000, $27,000 for our audit, which is still a pretty good price. We use Excel to help prepare all our audit and budget documents instead of purchasing special software. We found that Excel, if we were any bigger, I think we'd be struggling, but we're just the right size that we can use Excel and it's very efficient with the way we use it. Tax collection budget, those hourly wages, those come from the clerk's department, but it also shows how much in postage we use and outside printing to get those taxes out the door. Tax collection, that's just re-emphasizing how much money is actually collected here at the village. The clerks take it in downstairs, but it's upstairs where we account for it. We make sure that every penny is accounted for. We are responsible for those funds and distribute accurate amounts and fill out the reports accurately so the school and the county and the technical college get their money. So don't want to be messing that up. Those entities, or we all rely on taxes for operations. This is an example of a tax report that we fill out on a daily basis during tax time. It really goes to show how we keep track of the money coming in and the making sure that the money coming in matches the assent and it matches the bank. You don't want the assent program that keeps track of our taxes not to be matching. So that's this report, and it keeps track of that for us. You can see this is our busiest day. It was 12:31. And you can see these different drawers here, the deputy clerk, utility clerk, deputy clerk, utility clerk. That is how we are able to report to you how much we took in over the counter, how much we took in the mail, and the drop box, and at the bank. So the assent program really didn't have a good way of doing that. So staff here came up with this great idea, and we use certain drawers for certain tasks, and we account for that and make sure it all ends up in the bank, which is the most important thing. You never know what you have till it's gone. A lot of the tasks of the finance department go unnoticed. That is, until they're not done correctly or not done at all. When I first got here, the 2016 financial statements were not issued yet. I got here in August. So obviously there was a main problem, the timeliness of financial information. Timeliness and financial information is super important. And if your finance department can't keep those reports coming on a monthly basis, making sure they're accurate and have the information you need to make decisions in there, that's when you know that there's something wrong with the finance department. But the fact that you guys continue to get those finance department reports on a monthly basis, accurate, and we're able to explain them to you, I think it really goes to show how well this finance department is really working together. The payroll's done. We haven't had any corrections lately. We get all our bills done on time. Prior to Renee, we had a previous person doing this. Our WPS fines and fees were just out of this world because we couldn't get the bills paid on time. There were lots of issues going on. But that's when it was noticed. Barb kept asking about why do you have all these penalties? We had a person in our department that we are struggling with. Right now, things are running super smooth. We're able to report information and fulfill requests when people are asking for it. And it probably only takes a day. If you really need something, we can get it to you in a day if you need it. So the information is pretty organized, and we have certain ways to pull that information. So I think that's all I got. Any questions?
The payroll can be between 38 to 64 employees. What's that high swing? What is that?
Election.
Any other questions?
All election workers get paper checks, right?
Yes. Yep, so like, especially when you have like a November election, there's a lot of.
Our board members get paid monthly. Our committee members get paid yearly. So we got a lot of different schedules. Obviously, election is only when they work. And then summer employees are on our regular pay schedule when they're here.
Anything else?
Is there concern that using Excel opens up a lot of human error? Right? Are you like typing in Excel or?
So
out?
our software program, so Cassell has it's called My Excel. So we are able to pull numbers in from our software right into Excel.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
And there's locked cells and other things too,
So
so.
download into that. Okay.
I was gonna say, who's the Excel wizard that knows how to do all the
Yeah, or-
equations and color coding and fun stuff that most of us can't do?
It works pretty well. Prior to My Excel, like if we wanted to do the monthly reports that we do, it would have literally taken over a day. Everything was hand typed. At the end there, probably in 2014, I got to the point where I could run some reports electronically and I could sort them and stuff. But we got Excel in 2018, I think. And since then, everything we do is able to be done so efficiently and fast. And obviously a lot less errors.
Like I do our workers' comp audit, and I probably have close to 40 some columns. Because they, every employee, and then it's divided between like summer help, committee members, board members, and what's taken out pre-taxed, overtime hours. I mean, all that, and it's a ginormous report that I do for the workers' comp audit.
Does this monthly financial report come out of that system that you're talking about?
We use My Excel. So we open up a regular Microsoft Excel, but we have a special tab on tap that's called My Excel. It was developed by our software company that talks directly to our financial software. And we can pull it in. So the monthly reports, I don't know, takes maybe a few hours. Because then she does the narratives.
Anything else?
The best part is like when we do budget, we can go back to like 2014. I don't always show you guys, but when department heads are doing their budget, they can see the trend for so many years. And that's really helps to make better predictions in the future. And you can see the trends and stuff. And also like if something is getting coded wrong, you'll see that. And we work on our budgets usually 2 months. And I've been working on it now, so I can already see some trends if it's looking similar to last year. I mean, it's really a really great opportunity to ensure the reports and the information in there is accurate, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you guys for putting that together. Looking at number 11, old business, discussion or action on amendments to the clothing and allowance. A little bit of background on this. If you didn't get a chance to look at the packet back in March, if you remember, this committee had a lot of good discussion and whatnot, reference the Cintas contract and whether or not to continue that. And if not to continue that, what to do as far as the employees' yearly reimbursement. Ultimately, at that meeting in March, we, as a committee, move forward to the board with recommending $400 per year per employee and then purchasing a washer and dryer. Michael brought to the board last month for trustees some additional considerations and questions that staff had come up with since that time. And I suggested that it come back to this committee to reconsider if necessary before having the board look at it. So with that, Michael, take it away.
Yeah, I guess, as I probably referenced in February, March, I really didn't see this agenda item being more than like a 3-minute conversation, but it's become a much longer than that. You know, we do have some of our staff that, as time has gone on, has been maybe a little more leery of, not having the uniform service, which I know we talked about with then getting a washer and dryer. You know, as we go through these reports and we go through the presentations, you know, $600 an employee, if we go down to $400 an employee, is there a savings? Yes. You know, $2,000 potentially overall on all the funds. However, our employees do a lot of work. They do a lot of, I guess, their value is high. You know, we talk about on the board agenda, there's topsoil screening things, you know, it's $100,000 less on public works projects we have this year because our staff is diligent when we organize our materials on site and we're able to reuse it. I guess my point is our staff adds a lot of value, and I think sometimes we get caught up on one line item instead of the overall picture. I guess realistically, at this point, I'd probably just say, let's leave it as is, and not change anything until there's maybe something more drastic. Otherwise, maybe we go with the hybrid approach where we say you get, you know, X dollars. If you still want to use Cintas, go with it. But if you're not using Cintas because the clothes there just don't quite fit you right, we can reimburse you for something. Honestly, that's what my heart is telling me. You know, in financial aspects, the village, I don't think has a increase in our budget that way.
Do you want to just, we met with the Cintas individual too, and just, if you wanted to expand more about.
Yeah, I mean, we were having some issues with, I would say our service level, which was causing some other, I mean, really, as we talk about all the payroll and vendors, one of the bigger headaches we had over the last couple of years has been our Cintas monthly payment, you know, and all of a sudden tracking down, you know, they charge us an extra $200 on this invoice because they said Joe didn't turn in 3 pairs of pants. And you go talk to Joe and Joe's like, I only have 6 pairs of pants. I don't know why they say I have 9. And, you know, you're going through all that and trying to keep those items straight. And so we sat down with the Cintas reps and we're like, hey, these are our pain points. You know, all of a sudden we're getting charges on our bills that we don't believe are necessary or even realistic. And, you know, nobody actually tells us that this charge is coming until it's almost too late. And then we're short paying bills and going through disputes of trying to get a billing company to remove a charge from a bill that then our delivery driver says, oh yeah, that was my error. Like, okay, well, can you take care of your error and not make it our error or our extra payment? So, you know, between Renee and I and some of the other superintendents out there, there is a lot of extra time kind of spent on things that we probably have better time for. But they said they'll be better. And I guess I'm willing to give them a shot to be better by putting them on notice that we were canceling them. But you know, I at least do get a weekly contact now from our delivery driver, the rep, who will confirm what was delivered, what was dropped off, if anybody is potentially missing something, if a garment was considered damaged or no longer part of their rental uniform. That's maybe the other part, like when we have an employee that would leave us, whether that's, you know, they're retiring or they chose to take a job elsewhere, and all of a sudden they go to turn in their pants. If those pants have grease stains or, you know, they have some rips that are deemed no longer suitable for the rental program, we're then paying anywhere from $30 to like $50 for those pairs of pants. So if the employee had 10 pairs of pants, that's essentially a $500 bill that we're paying. And we can keep the pants, but if the employee was a size that nobody else is, it really isn't a huge benefit to us to have, you know, a pair of pants that nobody else can wear. But so there are some of those hidden, I shouldn't say hidden, but fees that occur. Whereas if we were to give an employee, you know, that money, if they left, they left, but at least we're not paying extra for their clothes once they leave us.
So question, I read this summer and I'm sitting here going through the packet trying to find it. I read way too many pages for tonight's meetings. It says in the employee manual, if I read this correctly, that field-based employees are offered 11 sets of uniform trousers and shirts to ensure they have a full week of clean uniforms. Are we actually issuing 11 sets of clothing for a 5-day week to each person, or is that really kind of outdated?
11 is what kind of is the standard. So that would mean you have 5. So 11 covers the 5 that you're wearing for that week, the 5 you turned in, and then there should be 1 extra. So if you had a rip or something, you have a pair of pants that you could wear. Not everybody has 11. Some guys only have 6. Also, this time of year, some guys will start getting shorts. So they might have 4 pairs of shorts and 6 pairs of pants. So there's that variation too, where 11 is kind of the set number of, I'd say, bottoms you get.
They don't have 11 for each week. They have 11 to have 2 weeks worth while one gets.
Correct, yeah. So every Thursday, the dirty laundry gets picked up and new laundry gets dropped off. So, you turn in 5 dirty pairs of pants, you get 5 delivered to you on Thursday, and then generally you have that 1 pair that you're wearing, which is what makes the 11.
Is there another vendor besides Cintas? Like, is there-
There's other ones out there. I know, I think we checked with Bay Towel last time around. A lot of it is the initial setup fee. Cintas, we don't have one. With any other vendor, we do have one, and then I think generally the weekly or monthly charges are probably fairly similar, but since we're already with one, we don't have the same kind of initial setup fee.
So you're asking, or
I
what?
don't really know what I'm asking anymore.
Well, it feels like we should just go back to where we started and not ask for anything different, because it feels like we're
Yeah, I think
making it worse for employees.
Yeah, there are some other questions that he had brought up from staff. I don't know if you want to touch on those.
Yeah, so like our mechanic staff, they do get some coveralls that are currently part of the uniform allowance for them, or rental program for them. So those staff that are grease and the hydraulic fluids, and that is gonna ruin clothing more often than not. They do get those washed weekly as well. So they generally have a little more of a cost to them for that clothing. So the 2 mechanics kind of touched on that. We do have, then there's the question about, if we're supposed to have logoed shirts, if I go buy a shirt for $10 and, and the embroidery company says it's another $4 for the logo on it, is the village paying for that logo? Does the employee have to pay for the logo? Right now, any shirt that we do get through Cintas for the rental, it has a patch that says Village of Weston. I don't know if you stick around for the board meeting, Travis or Roman, generally are there with their Weston shirt on. That's a Cintas shirt that has the patch. A shirt like mine was purchased by me to have I guess not the patch, but the embroidery on it. So I guess that was a question too, for if they have to buy their shirts, do they pay for that logo, or does the village cover that cost? And then, like I said, we do have a few staff who just, the styles of pants, some of our female staff, what they can find through the Cintas contract really isn't what they prefer to wear, so they just don't utilize it. And I guess honestly, that's kind of where I initially came from with this whole proposal, is we have staff that aren't realizing the benefit of the ability to have their pants paid for, or I guess as part of their employment here, because we don't offer them option for them to that they're comfortable in wearing. We've had a couple people purchase their steel toe boots for the year. I haven't seen a bill yet from them that's been under $300. So our current $300 reimbursement is essentially paying for their steel toe boots. So if we were to remove the uniform, then then the boots might actually be fully covered, and but we're still not covering then pants so it would be removal of a benefit if we were to eliminate the contract and, in my opinion, throw in an offsetting.
I guess
Revenue.
it strikes me, you went through the process of analyzing whether there's a benefit to using them or not, and it was pretty obvious that it's not. And now we're going back.
Well, because if there was an offset revenue for it, I would say yes. It was when the action was to remove the service, but then reduce the amount paid to the employee. I now have 20 people mad at me that I took away a benefit from them. And it's, like I said, morale is a real thing. Having a good culture is a real thing. So I'd rather them be upset about the resident who flipped them off while they were repairing a pothole versus the village board or took away their benefit and now they're griping with each other in the shop. So I guess realistically, I saw it as an opportunity to ease the burden on our finance staff in tracking down invoices and allow staff the flexibility to purchase the clothing that they're comfortable in.
So the shirt you're wearing right now,
Yeah.
what did you do? Where'd you buy that and how much you pay for it and who did the embroidery?
I don't know about this one. I think this one we got through Graphic House. There is a certain amount of budget in Public Works and the rest is covered by payroll deductions. So I paid for it myself, but I also can wear this shirt. I probably wear this every Monday for board meetings and it doesn't, like, I can wash it. I don't rip it. I don't get it full of grease. I don't get concrete on it. I don't get caustic acid on it. I don't spill chlorine on it. I guess that's the thing. My clothing, I can wear the same shirt for the next probably 5 years and nobody's gonna notice it and say, wow, that looks faded or that looks dingy. You should stop.
Okay, now do we purchase the t-shirts for them already?
We do purchase t-shirts. So that's where, again, our Cintas cost per employee has kind of been dropping because a lot of our newer staff doesn't want the collared button down work shirt anymore. They're good with just the cotton t-shirt. So, I mean, again, we have some employees who are realizing maybe a $300 benefit through Cintas and other employees who are maybe at $50 a year because they have a few pairs of shorts and that's about it. And then we just placed an order for the t-shirts and staff that's been here for 6-7 years, some of them are like, I don't need any t-shirts right now, I'm good.
Now, would they if we went to giving them, say, the 600, would they then purchase those t-shirts or is that in addition to?
I would probably still keep purchasing the t-shirts unless we want to charge them $10 a shirt or something. We can do something like that. I know there are companies that do that where there's kind of an internal store, so it's.
Well, this is what I'm getting at. If we went to the 600, and they're buying the boots for 300, they would have 300 to use for blue jeans, coveralls, I assume, or you could provide coveralls. I guess that's kind of, to me, is an extra.
And that's where I was starting to get a little caught up in trying to figure out how do I make a one size fits all for everybody? Because if we start saying, okay, well, we'll buy coveralls because that's necessary for the mechanic staff, then, do we have other people that say, well, my job is specific to sewer cleaning and for that I need a special type of, pant too that is more stain resistant. So then are we saying, okay, well, we're gonna buy you the stain resistant pants? So I guess that's where I was like, maybe what we had was good and I shouldn't have opened my mouth and just.
Or would that 300 be considered if they wanted coveralls?
It could be, but
They could
right now if they're
purchase
getting
their own
500, essentially the mechanic staff, the two we have there, I think they're closer to probably 500 a year through our Cintas contract. So I guess honestly, if we could do a month by month contract right now with Cintas, it's one of those things where I asked a question, nobody said anything. And I'm like, okay, we're all in agreement. And then as weeks go by and discussions happen, all of a sudden I'm starting to get hey, Michael, do you have a second? Hey, Michael, do you have a second? And I start getting all these extra little questions and answers, and you start realizing this is probably a more sensitive topic than I thought.
Or can you give them the option?
Well, that's what I was saying, is they're an option. We just say you can keep Cintas as is, otherwise in lieu of Cintas, and maybe that is, in lieu of Cintas, here's an extra 200.
Right,
And you sign off every January 1st or whatever it is, so that,
that you're gonna purchase your own, just the 300, I mean,
yes,
so it'd be 500 instead of 6.
correct, yeah,
I think
so,
that would probably work to satisfy those that can't use the Cinta.
yeah, so we could reduce the amount that maybe somebody who doesn't use Cintas, say we want to use 200. So it'd be 500 employee, and I think that matches what a lot of the other communities have. And then if you want to keep Cintas, you have that option. We don't have to have a minimum number of people for Cintas
Okay,
to still service us. Maybe eventually they'll say, hey, this doesn't cash flow for us anymore, I don't know, but I think for the most part, we can, you know, I think I mentioned it in here, we do that with healthcare. We say, do you want to be on the HSA plan or the traditional
Right.
plan? And then following year, somebody can change their mind and say, hey, I want to be back on HSA. And we go, okay, cool. And then next year they can say traditional, or they can say, I don't even want the villages insurance this year. You know, so I guess I would say we can let people, if we wanted to make that hybrid approach, and they just would need to opt in.
and if they want to coveralls, they buy coveralls.
And then, yeah, if they said, I don't want Cintas and they want to buy coveralls, they can go buy their coveralls. Do that, but if they still see a benefit of having a uniform washing service, and they're not taking greasy clothes home, and we're not figuring out how to get a washer and dryer here, and who's gonna do it, and are they allowed to do it on, you know, during work hours, or do they have to do it after hours, you know?
Break.
Yeah, I mean, cause that was a question too, like, well, am I allowed to wash during the day? Do I have to, you know, is there gonna be a sign up list? Are we, cause I don't necessarily know if I wanna put my stuff in with this guy's stuff, cause I know what he does during the day, and I mean, it really, it got further than I
Well,
realized.
yeah, I was gonna
Life
say,
of its
girls
own.
are just put in one and they didn't have all that issue.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So if we stay with Cintas, are we looking at another 3-year contract, or would we have a possibility of a 1-year contract? And if so, would the less years change our price? I guess I'm hesitant to say, let's go 3 years with somebody who we've decided we didn't do very well. They've recommitted and promised to do better, but you know, that's kind of a hard thing here because we're at the end of a road here. Of course, they're going to promise to do better because they want to get us on contract for 3 more years, but I don't want us to be in 4 months sitting here and saying we made a mistake. Like, I'd like to see if we could maybe potentially look at a smaller contract to give it a year just to see if they hold true to what they have committed to you. And
Yeah.
and then if not, maybe we look at, I don't know, look at it differently. I'm a little hesitant on a 3-year contract for some place that, you know, there has been a lot of issues with.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is probably making sure wouldn't be a clause for a minimum amount of use. Say we have 2 employees that want to stick with it, I would say, okay, cool, you guys can stick with it, and as long as Cintas doesn't charge us extra, I don't think there's real harm in whether it's a 1-year contract or 2-year contract, because it's not a large dollar amount for just a few people. I know we do get special government pricing through the Omnia program. So when uniforms get bid out like nationally, the major providers can say, here's my bid, this is how much, you know, this pair of cargo pants costs, this is how much a pair of blue jeans costs. And right now Cintas does have that national contract. So we get that pricing. I don't know if other organizations are, you know, that could change too in a year. They might not have that. Somebody else might get that contract and now, but because we have a contract that is signed through the Omnia program, that's the pricing we get, and that's the pricing we're locked into through the contract cycle. So I guess from that perspective, it is helpful to have a longer year contract, as if all of a sudden pricing goes up or they lose that and they need to raise their rates because they lost a bunch of clients. But they said we could kind of look at a month to month at the moment before they would require us to sign another contract. So I guess we can follow up with them again in a month or so and see where we're at. And
We just ask for them back
in writing that we would be, that they are okay with just going month to month for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not signing a new contract with anybody at the moment, so.
I guess my suggestion or motion or whatever would be to recommend to the village board that we offer purchasing. Employees could purchase their clothing for 500. Or they can go with Syntec if that's their choice, and that we go with a shorter contract, but to after you check that particular item out. And how many employees are gonna wanna do that?
In Cintas, you get 300.
Pardon?
In Cintas, you still get
Yeah, it'd
300.
be the,
Right,
the 11 sets of whatever, how we have it
300
worded.
plus Syntax or
Yeah.
Syntax or
Real quick,
500.
Song, did you get all that?
Can you say it one more time?
And then that was a lot there. I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
So you this agreement and 300, what we have now. Or 500 and you purchase your own clothing annually.
So I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Can you read it back one more time?
That allowance can be 500 annually, or if you go with Centas with additional 300.
When you're saying the additional 300,
So basically keep what they have right now or get rid of Cintas and they get $500. Period. And that would be the end.
So it's the hybrid approach.
Yeah,
But the employee would select once in January 1. You wouldn't be able to change mid-year.
Question, Jamie, would that motion need to then rescind our previous recommendations? Because we did motions that were approved to recommend the discontinuation of the contract with Cintas. And we also had the one for $400 with no Cintas and buy a washer dryer. So do we need to undo what we did to go forward with something different?
It makes it cleaner if you do. Then we do have record that says that that's taken back. And I think you could make this amendment to the motion and vote on the amendment and then the motion.
Okay. So Barb, that was your motion. Are you willing to make that
yes,
amendment?
I would be willing to amend to rescind the prior motion.
Both of them.
Of last meeting.
And you had the second on that? Are you agreeable to that as well?
And both motions, if we're sending both of them.
So to rescind the prior motion would be the removal of the Cintas contract and the $400 plus the purchase of the washer and dryer.
Mhm,
So we would vote on the amended motion first and then the original motion?
correct.
Okay, any other discussion?
We want to add in there the,
short term?
the looking at a shorter contract, or is that just gonna
That was
be?
part of my motion.
Yeah,
was
she did
To
mention
look
it.
at a shorter,
Look at something shorter than a.
shorter
three-term.
contract.
Yeah,
And if they would
And-
say no, what, I guess we bring
Then
that
we
back.
come and bring
Yeah.
it back.
Or, and if they're not gonna charge you additional fees if you have less and less employees, I guess what, a
Yeah.
3-year contract might not be
Right,
that
that's
bad.
why I said have
Could
Michael
be.
check all the.
so if it doesn't
Ins and
work like you're
outs of it.
hoping it'll work,
yeah.
bring it back and
Yeah,
we'll,
we'll back.
we'll look at it a different way.
Don't misread
Yeah.
the room.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, so just to clarify, we're gonna vote on the amendment first and then the original motion. So on the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion carries. Okay, on the original motion, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried.
Last time we were doing
I
it.
swear that was me, sorry.
And that's why I suggested he'd bring it back to this group because we had already done so much work discussing this and for the board then to start at square zero and just completely have these same conversations again just didn't seem necessary to me to take up all that time. So. Okay, looking at new business, we have none. Remarks from staff. Anybody have anything else? Nobody? Okay, remarks from committee members. Barb.
None.
Stephanie. Steve.
None.
None for me as well. We have a future meeting date next month of Monday, July 20th at 4:30 PM. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Manel, a second.
Second.
Second by Daniels. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried. We are adjourned at 5:51 PM.